Karen was a vibrant and creative homeowner who lived in a sunny neighborhood filled with well-manicured lawns and flower beds. From a young age, her love for gardening blossomed as she spent countless hours tending to plants in her childhood garden. Now, as an adult, she brought that same passion to her own home. However, Karen's vision for her garden went beyond colorful flowers and neatly trimmed hedges. She aimed to create a native plant garden, one that celebrated the local ecosystem and provided a haven for butterflies, bees, and other pollinators. With every seed she planted and every flower she nurtured, Karen felt like she was doing her part to help the environment. She carefully selected plants that were native to her region, knowing they would thrive without much fuss while also attracting friendly wildlife. The sight of colorful blooms swaying in the breeze filled her with joy, and she often watched in delight as bees buzzed from flower to flower. As the seasons changed, her yard transformed into a lively habitat buzzing with activity. It was a place where nature thrived, but it was also different from the perfectly manicured gardens around her. While she cherished the beauty of her natural oasis, Karen couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone would appreciate it. Despite her enthusiasm and dedication, Karen soon faced challenges from her community. The neatly trimmed lawns and flower beds of her neighbors stood in stark contrast to her wild-looking garden. Little did she know that this difference would lead to an unexpected conflict with the Homeowners Association, HOA. As she tended her plants one sunny afternoon, Karen received news that would change everything. One bright morning, as Karen watered her vibrant garden, she noticed a white envelope tucked beneath her front door. Curious, she bent down to pick it up, her heart racing slightly as she wondered what it could be. As she opened the envelope, her excitement quickly faded when she read the words inside. It was a warning from the Homeowners Association, stating that her garden was deemed an eyesore and looked too much like weeds. The letter went on to demand that she remove the plants immediately or face fines. Karen's stomach dropped as she reread the notice, disbelief washing over her. How could they call her carefully curated collection of native plants weeds? Each flower and shrub had a purpose in supporting local pollinators, and yet, the HOA saw only chaos amidst the beauty. Feeling a mix of anger and sadness, Karen glanced out at her garden. The colorful blossoms danced in the gentle breeze, and bees busily flitted from one flower to the next. To her, it was a sanctuary. But to the HOA, it was simply an unkempt mess. The thought of tearing it all out felt like ripping apart a piece of herself. She took a deep breath and sat on her porch steps, contemplating her next move. Rather than giving in to the HOA's demands, Karen felt a spark of determination ignite within her. She would not let this warning define her gardening passion or erase the hard work she had put into creating her ecological haven. Karen decided then and there that she needed support. The community had conservation groups that celebrated native plants and protecting pollinators. She would contact them for advice and help turn this situation around. As Karen sat on her porch steps, the warning letter felt like a heavy weight in her hands. Frustration bubbled up inside her, and she could hardly believe what she had just read. How could the HOA not see the beauty and purpose behind her garden? Each plant was carefully chosen, not just for its vibrant colors but for its role in supporting local wildlife. To Karen, her garden was alive, a thriving ecosystem full of buzzing bees and fluttering butterflies. Tears of anger welled in her eyes as she thought about the countless hours she had spent nurturing her plants. She remembered the joy of watching a monarch butterfly land delicately on a flower or hearing the soft hum of bees as they hovered around her blooms. These moments filled her with a sense of purpose, knowing that she was contributing to the environment in a meaningful way. Karen felt misunderstood, as if no one else could appreciate the beauty she saw. The neatly trimmed lawns of her neighbors felt like a stark reminder that not everyone valued nature's wild wonders. Instead of being celebrated for her unique garden, she was being pushed to conform to an ideal that didn't resonate with her values. The thought of tearing out her plants seemed not only unfair but also heartbreaking. Determined not to let this setback defeat her, Karen took a deep breath and focused on what she could do next. Anger shifted into resolve as she realized that she could fight back, not just for herself, but for all those who believed in protecting natural habitats. Her garden was more than just an aesthetic choice, it was a statement about the importance of biodiversity and conservation. With this newfound clarity, she was ready to take action and defend her beloved sanctuary. Determined to defend her garden, Karen set out to find a local conservation group that shared her passion for native plants and pollinator protection. She spent the evening researching online, scrolling through various websites and social media pages. One particular group caught her eye, a non-profit dedicated to preserving natural habitats and educating the community about the importance of biodiversity. The next day, with renewed hope, Karen picked up her phone and dialed the organization's number. As she waited for someone to pick up, her heart raced with anticipation. When a friendly voice answered, Karen explained her situation and shared her concerns about the HOA warning. The woman on the other end listened attentively, offering reassurance and understanding. "You're doing something really valuable," she said. "Your garden is a crucial habitat for pollinators." The kind words lifted Karen's spirits as she realized that her efforts were not in vain. The conservationist informed her about resources available to homeowners who wanted to create wildlife-friendly spaces. They discussed how Karen could certify her yard as a protected pollinator habitat, which would help in standing up against the HOA's demands. Excited by this new information, Karen eagerly took notes as they talked. The conservation group provided tips on selecting plants native to her region, information on how to create habitats for various insects, and advice on attracting more wildlife to her garden. Best of all, they offered assistance with the certification process and even shared examples of other gardens that had successfully defended their natural beauty. By the end of the call, Karen felt a surge of empowerment. With support from the conservation group, she knew she could make a strong case for her beloved garden and stand firm against the HOA's demands. She was ready to turn frustration into action and protect her vibrant sanctuary for both herself and the creatures it hosted. With the guidance of the conservation group, Karen was ready to start the certification process for her yard as a protected pollinator habitat. The first step involved filling out an application form, where she would describe her garden and the plants she had chosen. Delighted, she began compiling a list of her native plants, noting how each one contributed to attracting pollinators like bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects. Next, Karen learned that she needed to create habitats within her garden to support different types of wildlife. This included adding structures such as brush piles, log piles, or even small patches of bare soil where ground-nesting bees could thrive. Inspired by this, she decided to redesign a corner of her garden to include a small brush pile made from twigs and branches she had collected during cleanup. Another requirement was ensuring that her garden provided a continuous source of food throughout the seasons. Karen carefully arranged her flower beds by planting species that bloomed at different times of the year, creating a feast for pollinators from spring through fall. She researched flowering plants that would attract various insects and added some new ones to her existing collection. After making the necessary changes, Karen submitted her application along with photos of her garden. The conservation group reviewed her materials and scheduled a site visit to assess her work in person. This visit was an opportunity for experts to evaluate how well Karen's garden fulfilled the habitat criteria they required. When the day of the visit arrived, Karen felt nervous but excited. The conservationists walked through her garden, admiring her efforts and taking notes. In no time, they confirmed that she met all the criteria needed for certification. Karen's joy was immeasurable when they presented her with an official certification that recognized her yard as a protected pollinator habitat, affirming both her hard work and commitment to nature. With her certification in hand, Karen felt a renewed sense of pride in her garden. To celebrate this achievement and inform her community of her garden's new status, she decided to install an official sign at the property line. This sign would not only showcase her commitment to protecting local wildlife but also serve as an educational tool for her neighbors. Karen visited a local store that specialized in outdoor signage and found the perfect one featuring bright colors and eye-catching graphics. It was designed specifically for certified pollinator habitats, including images of butterflies and bees, along with clear wording that explained the importance of pollinators to the environment. As she placed the order, she could hardly contain her excitement. This was a vital step in standing tall against the HOA's warning. When the sign arrived a few days later, Karen couldn't wait to install it. She chose a sunny location at the front corner of her yard, visible from the street where passers-by could easily see it. After gathering her tools and taking a deep breath for encouragement, she carefully dug a hole for the signpost, ensuring it was sturdy and well-positioned. As she worked, Karen pictured how neighbors would react when they saw the sign. Would they finally understand the beauty and purpose behind her garden? Would they feel more inspired to appreciate their own green spaces differently? These thoughts fueled her determination as she secured the sign into place. Once finished, Karen stepped back to admire her work. The sign stood proudly beside her blooming flowers, almost like a badge of honor. She felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her as she imagined children stopping to read the sign or neighbors asking questions about what they could do to help wildlife flourish in their own yards. This moment marked not just a personal victory for Karen but also an invitation for others to join in the movement of protecting nature together. As word spread around the neighborhood about Karen's newly certified pollinator habitat, the Homeowners Association couldn't help but take notice. The colorful sign she had installed at her property line became a focal point for community discussions. Neighbors stopped to read it and admired the vibrant flowers and buzzing activity in Karen's yard. Many began to see her garden from a new perspective, recognizing its role in supporting local wildlife. Meanwhile, members of the HOA gathered to discuss their options. They had initially insisted that Karen remove what they considered an eyesore, but now, with her certification proudly displayed, they faced a dilemma. It was clear that calling her garden weeds could be seen as dismissive of not only Karen's efforts but also the broader movement towards environmental conservation that many residents were starting to embrace. Feeling pressure from their members, the HOA called for a meeting to address the situation. They knew that enforcing their original demand would not only create conflict with Karen but might also upset many of her neighbors who acknowledged the beauty and importance of her garden. A few progressive homeowners voiced their support for Karen, arguing that gardens like hers were exactly what communities needed to foster biodiversity and protect pollinator populations. In light of these discussions, the HOA realized they had no choice but to back off from their initial complaint. They decided to officially recognize Karen's sustainable efforts instead and even considered introducing educational workshops on native gardening for the entire community. Karen was informed of this change through a letter from the HOA asserting that her garden would no longer be considered a violation of the neighborhood guidelines. Relief washed over her as she read their words. She had stood by her beliefs and made a powerful statement for nature's sake. This marked not only a personal victory for Karen but also opened doors for awareness about environmental issues within her community, paving the way for more residents to embrace backyard habitats in harmony with nature. As news of Karen's certified pollinator habitat spread throughout the neighborhood, reactions among her neighbors varied widely. Some residents were excited and supportive, expressing admiration for Karen's commitment to the environment. They stopped by her yard, often marveling at the colorful blooms and the buzzing insects that filled her garden. Many shared their own experiences with gardening and some even began to consider creating similar habitats in their yards. Karen felt encouraged by these interactions, realizing that her efforts were inspiring others to appreciate nature more deeply. However, not everyone was enthusiastic about Karen's native plant garden. A few neighbors remained critical, viewing it as an eyesore that disrupted the uniformity of their community. They voiced concerns about how her wild-looking plants might attract pests or create an unkempt appearance in the neighborhood. Some even questioned whether such gardens could lower property values or change the character of their suburban enclave. During a neighborhood gathering, these differing opinions came to light. Supporters of Karen passionately defended her garden, sharing facts about the importance of pollinators and the benefits of biodiversity. They argued that embracing native plants was not only good for wildlife but also a step towards healthier ecosystems. Meanwhile, critics raised their concerns about aesthetics and property standards. Despite the mixed reactions, Karen stood firm in her beliefs, using this opportunity to engage with her community. She organized an informal garden tour, inviting neighbors to explore her yard while explaining the significance of each plant and its role in supporting local wildlife. This initiative opened up dialogues between supporters and critics, allowing them to see both sides. As conversations flowed during the tour, Karen began to notice a shift. Some skeptics softened their stance as they learned more about the advantages of native plants. Through patience and education, Karen hoped to bridge gaps in understanding and foster a sense of community centered around nature and conservation, a goal she had always envisioned for her garden. As the dust settled from her recent efforts, Karen took a moment to reflect on her gardening journey. What began as a simple passion for plants had transformed into something much greater. Standing in her yard, surrounded by the vibrant blossoms and the gentle hum of bees, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Each flower brought life to her garden, not just for herself but for the entire ecosystem. Karen realized that her garden was more than just a collection of native plants, it had become a refuge for pollinators that were essential for the environment. Watching butterflies flit from bloom to bloom and hearing bees buzzing happily reminded her of the importance of biodiversity. She felt fulfilled knowing that she played a critical role in supporting these creatures and nurturing them in an urban setting. This experience also taught Karen valuable lessons about resilience and community engagement. Initially faced with an admonishment from the HOA, she chose not to retreat but instead stood firm in her beliefs. Through patience, education, and open conversation with her neighbors, she transformed perceptions about what a beautiful garden could look like. This personal growth strengthened her connection to both nature and her community. Moreover, Karen found joy in sharing her passion with others. The support from fellow residents who appreciated her commitment fueled her desire to advocate even further for conservation efforts. She envisioned workshops and events not only focusing on native plants but also encompassing broader ecological topics like water conservation and wildlife habitats. As she looked out into her flourishing garden once more, Karen felt grateful for all that had transpired. She had turned negativity into positivity and ignorance into understanding. Ultimately, this journey reaffirmed her belief that taking small steps, one seed at a time, could indeed make a significant impact on the world around her. She knew that satisfying work lay ahead as she continued to nurture both her plants and her growing community passion for environmental stewardship. As Karen stood in her vibrant garden, surrounded by the cheerful buzz of bees and the fluttering of butterflies, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Her journey had been more than just about creating a beautiful space, it was a powerful testament to the importance of protecting natural habitats and standing up against the pressures of conformity. In a world where uniformity often overshadowed individuality, Karen had dared to celebrate the diversity found in nature. The transformation of her garden into a certified pollinator habitat symbolized a shift not just in her own life but in her neighborhood as well. It highlighted how beautiful gardens could come in many forms, not just the tidy rows and manicured lawns that had become the standard. By embracing native plants, she not only nurtured wildlife but also fostered awareness about ecological balance and sustainability among her community members. This experience underscored an essential truth: every small action matters. Karen's choice to advocate for her garden sparked conversations that encouraged others to rethink their own gardening practices and consider the environmental impact of their choices. People began to recognize that even in suburban settings, there was room for diversity, both in people's gardens and in their perspectives. Looking ahead, Karen envisioned a community flourishing with diverse gardens that supported local ecosystems. She hoped that her story would inspire others not to shy away from what makes them unique but to embrace it wholeheartedly. Celebrating natural habitats means celebrating life itself, which blooms in countless ways. In conclusion, Karen's journey serves as a reminder that protecting our environment requires courage and resilience. By standing firm against conformity and advocating for biodiversity, each individual can play a role in nurturing our planet's health for future generations. Together, through education, awareness, and action, communities can thrive in harmony with nature.